Up next, we turn our attention to one of the most forward-looking conversations of the day, the synergy between humans and AI in the workplace. This panel, titled Unleashing Human-AI Synergy for a Thriving Workplace, is proudly powered by the French Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong. In this session, we'll explore how organizations can foster a workplace culture that embraces AI as a collaborative partner, the tools enabling that synergy, and a real-world example of how human-AI collaboration is driving innovation and efficiency across industry. To lead the discussion, please join me in welcoming Mr. Fabrice Bayon, Co-President of Digital Innovation Committee at the French Chamber in Hong Kong and Managing Director, Hong Kong at PALO IT, to the stage. And joining him on the panel, we have Ms. Sharon Zhu, Managing Director at Accenture. Ms. Zhu, please. And Mr. Selim Slimani, Houti, Chief Operating Officer, Hong Kong at PALO IT. And we have Mr. Jovan Trajceski, Global Analytic Partner at H&M Group and Co-Chair of the AI and Big Data Committee at the FTAHK. Thank you. And Fabrice, the stage is yours.
Thank you. I'd like some more applause for our speakers, please, first. Thank you, guys. Thank you. So my name is Fabrice Bayon. I am the Managing Director of PALO IT Hong Kong, which is a global software development company. But today, I am not representing PALO IT. I'm representing the French Chamber as the Councillor and Co-President of the Digital Innovation Committee. And I would like first to extend my gratitude to AI Power Plus organization for organizing this event and inviting me and these three guest speakers. It's my honor to facilitate this panel discussion on a topic that is really important to me. It's the synergies that we can find between AI and human. And for this discussion, I have the pleasure to welcome Sharon first. Maybe Sharon, you can tell us a bit more about you.
Hi, everybody. My name's Sharon Chu. I lead the talent and organization practice across Greater China for Accenture. I'm based in Hong Kong. So this means I look after all our work related to change management, leadership, culture, learning, workforce, and HR. So very honored to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Then we have Selim. Selim, please.
Yes, nice to meet you all. I'm working with Fabrice as well, in the operation of PALO IT Hong Kong. I have a technical hat as well as CTO from time to time, so my background is technical. Yeah, happy to share a bit our journey and how we're using AI also in our company.
And last but not least, we have Jovan, please.
Thank you, Fabrice. Hi, everyone. Great to be here. My name is Jovan Trajceski, a global analytics partner with H&M Group and co-chair of the AI and Big Data Committee of FinTech Association. Just a quick background, 20 years of experience focusing on AI, digital transformation, analytics across US, Canada, and Asia. I've been focusing quite a bit the last 5 years based in Hong Kong, specializing in people analytics, so kind of managing the entire people lifecycle end-to-end. Outside of that, quite involved in the innovation tech space, both as a venture builder, venture mentor, and investor. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, guys. So I will not tell you that AI is a very trendy word. Actually, I think it's the buzzword of these last few years. And just to put some perspective on that, let's consider the example of ChatGPT. As you know, ChatGPT has been launched 3 years ago. 5 days after its launching, ChatGPT has reached 1 million users. 2 months later, it was 100 million users, and the forecast before the end of this year will be 1 billion users. So that means 1 out of 8 people on the world will be equipped or will be using ChatGPT. Or if you see another number, 1 out of 2 people that has a computer will have access to ChatGPT or will use ChatGPT. So that's massive, and it's only ChatGPT. As you know, we have a lot of different AI tools, and that's what I wanted to share with you. This is the importance of AI in nowadays. In this session, we will focus more on the synergies and the collaboration between human and AI, because we have a lot of things to do with AI on innovation, on decision making, to enhance our decision makings, to create a better workplace, and at the end to digitally transform all the organization. So I'd like to start first with my first question, and it's going to be for you, Sharon, to start with. So it's about AI and human collaboration. So my first question is, how do you think organizations foster a workplace that sees AI as a partner more than a threat? And second question, if you want, is what leadership and training approaches help employees leveraging AI effectively?
Yeah, thank you. And let me start with the leadership portion first, because I find that very fascinating. So I think fundamentally a key part of leadership is around activating strategy and also activating culture. And I think with specific reference to Gen AI, I think a leader needs to focus on a few key things. The first one is around creating psychological safety. And this is to make sure that people feel safe to learn, feel safe to try out new technologies, and also feel safe to share what they think about it. And I think it's also important for people in the organization to trust that the organization is integrating Gen AI in a way that both prepares and protects them. And I think another focus area for leaders is also to be aware of our own biases. So making sure that we're leading with an inclusive mindset, but also making sure that people not only have access to learning about Gen AI, but also have access to the support in using Gen AI. And then another area is actually being willing to learn. And I think in the era of Gen AI, leaders would need to learn continually and deeply. So actually, for example, last year I watched a movie on Ferrari. So Enzo Ferrari was not necessarily a genius engineer or a designer, but he was a driver. So therefore, to work and lead effectively in the era of Gen AI, we also need to be drivers. We also need to be actually using it. And interestingly, Accenture conducted research last year where we interviewed executives from across 22 countries. And 65% of the executives told us that they did not feel technologically ready to lead Gen AI-led transformations. So this calls for the urgency, but also the importance of learning Gen AI and the way to learn Gen AI, making sure that it's embedded as part of our workflow. And then last but not least, I think it's also making sure that people are in the center, so the focus of employee well-being. Because I think the crux of it is also understanding the interplay between human, AI, and robotics. And so therefore, we need to put people in the center. And therefore, as leaders, we need to be architects of continual change. Yeah.
Thank you, Sharon. Very interesting. Jovan, what's your point of view about this?
Well, I have 3 points, not just one. So first, I think the first point will be AI as augmentation. The second point will be model behavior from the top. And lastly, I think, and I will expand on this, the third point will be essentially continuous investment in learning. So if I kind of take the first point and say AI as augmentation, I think all of us in this room have to change the context and discussion. From my perspective, I take AI as digital coworker. It's not a replacement, right? Because I think humans in general, will focus on creativity, will focus on innovation, will focus on kind of building, relationship across the workforce and beyond that. The second point, I think, I would like to say, I truly believe in that human in the center, collaboration design, human in the loop. End of the day, our employees, our management, will make the decisions. But at the same time, they have ability to inject, emotional intelligence, which we sometimes lack, via, the lens of empathy, via the lens of ethics. Now, if I go back and scale in terms of the second point, which I mentioned, changing the behavior from the top, I think the first thing we need to realize, and I think most of us in this room do, walk the talk, right? Encourage your C-level, encourage and inspire your executives to essentially share their AI digital adoption journey across the company, right? I think that's key. End of the day, I think if you step back from my, work history across North America and Asia, successful companies provide the same safe environment you mentioned before, right? The safe sandboxes, this opportunity to do pilots or to do hackathons. This is the ways for employees to engage with AI tools completely and kind of engage with them in a really zero-risk environment. And the last point in terms of the investment in continuous investment, should I say, in analytics, is to say, if you step back, you have to realize essentially, if all of us here, whether it be a small or large company, we usually have 3 tiers. Tier 1 is, we do AI awareness for all the employees. Then you scale down to tier 2. All right, we do a tool efficiency or fluency. And then you end up with tier 3, which is kind of advanced application, right? So I think you have to step back essentially and say, how do we take that and embed AI in our workflows, essentially? But keep in mind that you have to keep a pulse check on adoption rate. You have to keep a pulse check on sentiment and user feedback and user design. So these are the 3 key elements that I keep always in mind, whether it be a project or whether it be a scope I have to think through.
Thank you, Jovan. And from a tech company point of view, Selim, what's your idea?
From our perspective, in the tech industry, we were quite impacted directly by the advancement in AI, etc. And also, I want to address one elephant in the room is people are afraid of what their job will change, how it will change, how it will be affected. So we try to make sure that our staff and our workforce, we accompany them in that change. We make sure that they have a clear communication about what tool they have at hand, how they can use it, and then also give them the freedom to test, and to report on their failures and their successes, and as well gain out of it to make sure that we can figure out a workflow, something that will enhance their day-to-day. So we really took AI as an assistant in the day-to-day jobs, removing all the items that were repetitive, etc., to make sure that we can enhance their creativity in the day-to-day, and to make sure that we can also listen to them when there is any fear in their day-to-day jobs, what will change, how we can get them to learn new things, how we can accompany them in their trainings. And by choosing different tools, it's less about the tools, it's how we're going to embed them in our day-to-day development lifecycle. So in software engineering, we all develop new software for companies, etc., to create code, and how AI will be used is key. It's less about the shiny things that we can generate right away in application, but how, like you say, Jovan, I think it's how we can bring that creativity, keep that creativity, and give to AI the actual action to build things, while we are there to give the order and to route the AI into the right direction. I think that's key to get the clear benefit out of it, and really encourage the people to test things and to come back with new ideas or areas when it fails. Not hesitate to change and to try to figure out how they can get a better workflow. And one last thing is really to make sure that when we really set the boundaries and the clear expectation of what AI can do, what AI can't do, at least yet, because things are evolving fast. Week by week, we have new tools. Week by week, the workflow and the job will change. It's just about having the clear expectation of where we use it today and not hesitating of changing it tomorrow, making sure that we always we adapt to those changes. So at PALO IT, we keep internally a team that watches what happens in the market and see how we can embed it in our workflow, test it, and then provide it to our engineers and so that they can use it in production and in our clients.
Okay, thank you. Just before moving to the second question, Sharon, I have another question for you, because actually I have already some keys given by all of you guys. But sometimes we can, you said that organizations are lacking of adaptation to all these Gen AI tools that are arriving. My question could be, how should leaders balance the need for rapid adoption with the risk of overwhelming employees adopting and digesting all of these Gen AI tools?
Okay, I think that's a great question. And I think I have three perspectives to share. I think one is to embed the usage of Gen AI into the normal flow of work. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a big thing. It can just be small nudges using Gen AI, so it become normalized. And it's very similar in the way that we drive culture change and behavior and mindset change with our clients. We look at incorporating those shifts as small nudges into the day-to-day and not one big massive event. I think that's number one. Number two, I think Selim and Jovan already alluded to it, is to make sure that leadership is visible and visibly sponsoring the usage of Gen AI through their own usage of it and actually role modeling that behavior. And for my experience in driving change, that visible sponsorship from the top is effectively a critical success factor for change. And the third thing, similar to what Jovan already mentioned, it could also be kind of like an incubator perspective, where maybe a smaller set of people as early adopters, as change champions, etc., really trial and implement those new Gen AI-related changes, and then celebrate that, make it visible, make it tangible, and then celebrate those success stories, and then drive the influence and impact that way.
Yeah. Great. Thank you very much. Let's move now to the second question. So we focused on HR, human. Now we're going to move to tooling and technology. So it's about using tools and the technology to enable seamless the synergies between human and AI. Selim, I'd like to start with you for this one. Yep. What specific AI tools or platforms do you believe are most effective in fostering these energies between humans and AI? And second, how can organizations implement these tools?
Sure. I just want to mention something. There is a lot of tools on the market, but the approach we took is less about the tool itself. Well, we had a learning curve. We bought the tool, we bought the licenses. For example, in the software engineering sphere, we have tools to generate code. We have GitHub Copilot, we have Cursor, those kind of tools that help the developer generate code. So we took the first approach by, okay, we procure the tool, we give it to the developer, and we see how they use it. So we started to measure the usage of the tool. We started to measure how the people were using it. At the beginning, people were excited, and after a couple of months, there was a drop in usage, and just to be able to generate a little bit of code, etc. So the return on investment on buying those licenses was starting to drop. So for us, we said, well, we need to make sure we figure out another way to actually implement this. So how might we change our ways of working to embed those tools and not only make the developer at the center, but the whole team that is around them, the architects, the designers, the product managers that are around them, and put the tool at the center and make sure that they can generate product and assets that everyone can understand and that the users at the end can acknowledge and use on the day-to-day. So for us, it was really to make sure that we had those champions that could help and train different teams and then put the tool in the center. And in Palo IT, instead of pushing the tool, we had the tools, but we tried to revamp the methodology of the way we work. And we developed a methodology that we call GenE2, Generative AI Enhanced Engineering, where we actually put the tool at the center. Whatever tool it would be, today is GitHub Copilot, tomorrow might shift, but our process is embedding AI in the ways of working for the different actors. And for each having their particular tool that targets their industry or their business. If we have a designer, they have already their tools. They have most of the provider of design platforms. They have AI embedded also as well. So figuring which one, choosing it, and then embedding it in our workflow in our day-to-day, and make sure that when we deliver a product, it's seamlessly integrating in all these tools. And these tools evolve every single day. So we have to keep a watch on what are the new ones and why not replace them if we get a better one on the market. But the methodology stays the same, and we try to generate as much as possible using AI, but giving to AI guide rails and rules that we want it to follow. The same way as we would give a junior developer some rules and some ways of working, etc. We use the AI the same way, and we use the AI as a coworker that can help us do a lot of actions that we don't necessarily want to do in the day-to-day, but also in our case, generate a lot of the code that we can use in production assets afterwards.
Thank you, Selim, for sharing this journey. One question, though, on my side, because actually when I am discussing with companies and organizations, I am realizing that very often they are lacking of expertise in tools. They don't have the knowledge, they don't have the right team to implement a tool or to digest a new methodology. So what will be your advice for this kind of companies?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think what we try to do at PALO, and we did it for us internally, is we train our own staff. And at some point we noticed that the clients that we help also need some kind of training. So what we put in place is those companies, we try to help them start with a small POC, see how it works internally with them, taking a piece of software that they want to develop, testing it internally with their own team, making sure integrating their own processes, and figure out how AI can enhance this, because each company might have different ways of working, and so we need to make sure that we train the AI, we give it the right assets, so that it behaves like one of the company's employees and has the right structure to develop. So it comes with training, but training with effectively applying it to a real case that they have on the job, less about just a POC on the side, but really a real use case that they would have in the day-to-day. I think like Sharon was saying, step by step, it's not big banging the whole thing, but step by step adding it, and then iteratively getting some feedback, changing potentially some aspects of it, but step by step bringing the AI into the workflow and changing it the whole life cycle.
Okay, great. But so maybe Sharon, if you want to continue, Selim gave you the mic.
Thank you. And to your earlier question, there was something around collaboration. And before I talk about collaboration, I'd just like to take a step back to consider first the workforce. And I think everyone here will agree that our workforce is going through significant transformation. And I think we all need to acknowledge that the workforce going forwards isn't necessarily going to be fully human, and it may not even be human directing machines, but it would likely be human plus. So humans working alongside machines. And I think this means that there would need to be seamless collaboration on site and remote with autonomous agents, with intelligent robots. And I think this then also challenges our current understanding and definition of collaboration, of decision making, of organizational structures, etc. And in Accenture, we don't necessarily focus on a specific tool or a specific platform. And I think how we advise our clients in terms of how we can chart out the path to unlock the highest potential of Gen AI is really what we call Gen AI GPS. So across workforce and the worker. So for this, we've actually identified 4 accelerators. One is around lead and learn in new ways. The second is around reinventing work. The third is around reshaping the workforce. And the fourth is around preparing the worker. And the first one, lead and learn in new ways, already mentioned it earlier. In terms of the second one around reinventing work, is really acknowledging that our existing processes might require significant change in order to fully unlock the value across the economy, the business, and also AI. So, for example, we worked with the Radisson Hotel Group. So they own over 1,100 properties across the globe, which means that any given day they would receive at least 1,000 customer reviews. So we worked with them to come up with a Gen AI agent who would draft responses back to their customers. So the customers will feel heard, but at the same time free up capacity for the employees and hotel managers to better service the customers. And the employees would still govern the process. They would still review the response processes to also teach the AI. But then in doing so, the amount of data and insights and analytics the hotel was getting was also able to help them service their customers even better. And I think in terms of reshaping the workforce, Vodafone. So Vodafone always is a culture that says if it's good for our people, then it's good for our business. So then as they look to experiment and scale Gen AI, they did that with the people as their focus. So then they started, for their frontline agents, for example, they started looking at skills adjacency, at career pathways adjacent to their current ones. And they're providing the people upskilling opportunities to move into new roles, for more expanded roles. And in opening doors for their own people within their own organization, they were then able to retain the legacy knowledge that remains so valuable for them. And then the last point around preparing the worker. So Cisco is they started to scale and experiment with Gen AI. They were very committed to a culture of transparency. So this means that any new use cases that were identified, their leaders were actually working alongside their people to address challenges such as defining the guardrails that Selim, you mentioned, understanding that or defining the positive impacts that could be coming from the adoption of new technologies. And so by empowering their people then become the driving force of change, enabled by technology instead of the other way around. So I guess the answer to your question is we're taking a holistic view across the organization to drive that collaboration.
Very interesting. Thank you, Sharon. Jovan, what's your idea on that?
Sure. So before we go there, I just realized the water we have in front of us, it's from Sweden. I work for a Swedish company, so big congrats to the company bringing this to this conference, but also to the Swedish Chamber of Commerce. I read it's all plant-based cap and packaging, so that's great to see. Going back to your question, I guess, so organizations natively, right? I mean, I think this is a human nature, right? They select tools based on their current, ecosystem, whether it be legacy or not. So when it comes to tools, I'm not going to dive into a specific tool because it depends on that. I'm going to give you two perspectives, because I think we kind of behind time. I'm just going to focus on one perspective and kind of break it down in three elements. I do want to chat about, essentially 3 AI building blocks that lift people, essentially. I did come up with really creative names because I think half of you are falling asleep, so maybe this will bring attention back. So the first one I call that creative jumpstart. So what do I mean by that? Can companies actually deploy generative tools where your employees can get faster to the first draft, faster, to the first illustration, faster to the first line of code? Instead of employees looking at a blank starting page, they can start iterating right away and get to the end goal. The other point I do want to mention, and again, I think it's a creative name as well, so hopefully it resonates. I call it a decision radar. Can we implement essentially a predictive scorecard that, it's very practical in nature and then pinpoints the pain points you have in your organization, but also have some sort of a action future-ready insight. This is where your manager will step in. They will bring their thinking hats and content, and they will make the decision. And last but not least, I think, and something that, I've seen deployed across Hong Kong and Asia in general, essentially, I would like to call it a creative worker. I've seen a lot of companies deploying low-code, no-code chat boxes or bots where they try to automatically answer, your enterprise organizational baseline Q&A, meaning questions how and when. In this way, you will alleviate essentially, bandwidth for your employees to focus more on strategic aspects, to focus more on value-added activities. But at the end of the day, I think what I've mentioned, one thing as a takeaway is select one that actually helps you solve a real business case, right? My general suggestion will be try to stay away from all these shiny, very shiny objects. And I think the question should be this. How do I increase creativity in my workforce? And how do I improve my decision process? What I found out these 2 decades across, Americas and Asia, the thing that works, the best thing you can do, and it's hard to do actually, make AI invisible, make more ethics, make it more employee or human first, and this way, the entire tech will be embedded in your workflow. By default, you will see creativity jump up. By default, you will see, improvement in your decision-making process.
Thank you, Jovan, and please keep your mic because I'm going to stay with you for this one. Actually, I'd like even for the last part of our discussion, I'd like to be even more concrete, being in the real world, So can you please, if you have some example to give to the audience on what can be the business case that you have implemented or you have experienced in your companies that foster this collaboration between human and AI?
Absolutely. I mean, I'll give you an example probably from a retail side. And again, I'll keep the example really industry agnostic and not company-driven drill down essentially. But in the retail world, like all of us regardless, but mostly retail world companies have lived in this really complex geopolitical maneuver that we have to go, and we have to plan for that. One basic question that every retailer has to answer is demand forecasting, demand sensing. So how do we implement that? I've seen a lot of tools from Gen AI to AI implemented, tools that improve your ML ops. It could be Databricks, could be a different platform. But end of the day, I think when you look at a specific solution, now the case that I mentioned in terms of retail forecasting, you should be able to bring the insight factors for your company, for the industry, but also now I feel we need to bring a lot of macroeconomic drivers, risk elements that we have to embed in our best, worst, and base case scenario to bring us forward. Because if you look at the retail, the problem is how do you find efficiency? How do you bring cost? How do you source the product from location A to a warehouse to a shelf in a store? This is where demand forecasting helps you, but also by utilizing AI solution, whether it be traditional AI or Gen AI, doesn't really matter. You free up capacity for your workforce in retail to focus on more creativity. How do I find the best product that speaks to customer? How do I focus more on customer-centric model? And this way you have a first mover advantage, and they translate into a top line or translate into a market share. So that will be kind of a simple example to keep one for retail.
Yeah, just let me ask you another question in that case, because you are saying that, and that's true, that AI enhances companies to make sharper, better decisions. But actually what I see is that we have a massive volume of data. So my fear and the fears of the organization I'm discussing with is, with this amount of data, am I sure that I'm using the data in the best way I could, or is it more overwhelming me because I don't know what to do with that? So as you represent a company in the retail, how do you use this data that you have access to?
I think the answer is very simple, and I'll try to distill it in a really simple manner, right? Most of my time that I spend, I spend on data governance. I spend on single source of truth. I spend on making sure the data we utilize is of high quality, because garbage in, garbage out. And when the moment you intervene with a traditional layer, you can control the level of data. But the moment you actually introduce Gen AI, you lose type of control essentially. So I think the most essential way is first of all, and I'll try to use less technical terms, but build single source of data, a data lake, where all your information is residing into one source, whether it be human-centric information, HRS, whether it be CRM data, whether it be information about your customer, whether it be information about your potential employee succession plans. So I think having that into one source will give you information to build different models that you can build essentially add-ons. End of the day, I think we have to move away from pilots in this perpetual cycle of low ROI from PALOs, but actually focus more on production and what it makes sense. Does my project that I engage in AI will have effect on my top line? Does it will bring me less cost? Will it bring me more revenue? Will it make my customer more engaged and happy? Will they spend more? Is my employees actually more engaged? So I think the two fields to kind of distill at you have to ensure your data is high quality, but also the project you implement through your organization actually has practical implication.
Thank you very much. Sharon, please, could you share some insights with us?
So I think in terms of actually implementing AI and also making sure that the data, I think the point around data is something that every time we talk about Gen AI with our clients, that's the first thing that comes up in terms of data. I think the other key challenges that we often come across is around the adoption, the user adoption, the culture. I think the culture piece is often neglected because people think, oh, it's so fluffy, it's like so soft. But actually, the usage and the adoption of Gen AI is so different that it actually demands a shift in mindsets and behaviors, and therefore leadership and ways of working. So I think the data, the leadership, the mindset, and the culture are things that we need to be very careful about in this journey.
Thank you very much. Selim?
Yep. I wanted to share to give a little bit more details of how we run things and give you a bit of an example. So as you said, Jovan, I think garbage in, garbage out. So we were trying to understand how, when we use AI tool, how do we give it the right context so that it can generate the right output. So in software engineering, most of the time where we spend a lot of time is in preparation, getting the requirement, lots of meetings to get the right outcome. So we try to figure out how might we shorten up that time, how might we get to the first line of code way faster than usual, and how might we measure it to make sure that the usage that we make to the AI makes sense. So in our use cases, we started using AI for every single, you probably already use it, you have transcripts of your meetings, you keep this. Most of the time, it goes into a black hole and no one uses it. So we started to put structure to it so that at the end, the transcript, we keep a certain structure and we keep it consistent. Especially at the project level, when you have a particular software that you develop and the project team is meeting, discussing about a particular feature, we keep those transcripts, you keep those discussions, because that's where the meat of what the software would be is. So, and we keep it, we structure it, and we keep that context, and we feed the AI with that context to iterate, like you were saying, and to generate the right thing, and to start generating code. At the beginning, it might be rough, but by giving it the context, giving it rules, giving it guidelines, we end up having production-ready assets that we can use and that we can ship way faster. We have an example that we helped an airline in Singapore, where they gave us the challenge of, they gave us a team, they had a team, and that team estimated that they could do the project of delivering that mobile application within 12 weeks. We said, potentially, we could take the challenge and figure out how might we potentially get faster. We didn't commit on faster, but we said, let us apply our methodology. Let us get your rules and your guidelines internally, security rules from their security team, technical rules from their architects and the enterprise architecture, business rules to know what the outcome of the app and how fast we can add that feature to their existing app. And we ended up finishing in almost 6 weeks, having the same product and the same outcome and launching the same app, with also keeping that context within the code base, so that even in the future when we want to come back to it, we can even query AI to know how it was built, how this project was constructed, what are the technology in use, and also it serves as a knowledge base. You bring in a new joiner to the team, they can query also the AI to know how this was built, because all the context is kept within the repository of the code, and so that it helps onboarding of new user, it helps keeping the knowledge base consistent, and it helps building on top of it way easier. And keeping the data, but also keeping consistent data in the right context is key. If we amass a lot of data, we'll get hallucination. If we keep the data in the right context, it stays consistent. Of course, still need humans to watch out what's the output, but it makes sure that we have something closer to a production-ready asset, and then just a human here to make sure that at the end it's shippable, testing it, and then shipping it to the end users.
Thank you very much. We are quite on time. I think I have 1 minute to conclude this discussion and close it. So maybe some takeaways that I've gathered from all your key points. The first one maybe is that it's very important to build a workplace that embrace AI, but it embrace as a partner, but it requires at the same time some transparency, leadership, and continuous learning. This is my first point. The second one is more about the adoption of AI tools, and it demands governance, for the data governance, for example, integration into daily workflows, and focus as well on empowering employees. And my last point, it's about the real-world examples that you gave, guys, and thanks to you. So it's about retail, it's about life science, it's about software development, delivery. And you said that AI can significantly enhance innovation, enhance efficiency and decision-making, but it needs to be implemented thoughtfully. Really important. Thank you all, guys, Sharon, Selim, Jovan, for all your insights. Maybe we have 1 minute for questions in the audience. So please, if someone wants to raise a question, it's the right moment. And if not, I will say that let's continue to lead this AI journey because we are the pioneers of it and we have this chance to live this era. So please enjoy that. And thank you all.
Thank you, our panelists and moderator, for this inspiring conversation. Please remain on stage for a photo taking.